Hey guys, welcome back to another Back to Jerusalem podcast. I'm Eugene Bach, your host for this time, and I'm coming to you live on delay from somewhere within the borders of Sweden this time. Now, quick warning, before we start this podcast, I just want to let you know that you're probably not going to like what I have to say. In fact, I expect to get a lot of hate mail from both conservatives and liberals, because what I'm about to share is something that I have experienced, but it goes against mainstream media. When I say mainstream media, I mean mainstream on the right and left. And even though this is more about Christian missions for me than it is politics, this is going to have political overtones that a lot of people on both sides are not going to like. Now, this podcast started as the result of a Google search that I did on AI because I heard a rumor that I was watching some YouTube video and there was an assertion that the number of child brides in the world is increasing because of climate change. Now, I've spent much of my life working in Muslim areas, traveling in Muslim nations, and I know for a fact that child brides are not the result of climate change. It is the result of cultural sometimes, but mainly religious beliefs, mainly from Islam. And that is the inconvenient truth. People don't want to acknowledge that Muhammad married little girls. Muhammad's favorite wife was Aisha, who was 6 years old when he married her, and he was over 50. So this is a practice. Now, if you are a follower of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad is the gold standard. So you can't expect religious followers to have a higher moral standard than the person that they're following. So the fact that Muhammad was a robber, a murderer, a killer, a slave owner, and a pedophile is something that continues to be practiced by those that adhere to Islam. This is the complete opposite of Jesus, and this is something that people don't like to hear. In fact, if this video goes onto YouTube, I would not put it past YouTube to take it down. But that's who Muhammad was historically. And so I thought that can't be. So I did a quick search and I pulled it up on my phone really quick. I did an AI search using Google AI. And my question was this. I'm going to read the question directly. Is climate change responsible for child brides? And the answer was yes. The climate crisis increases the incidence of early and forced marriages through several interconnected economic and social pathways. Could have just stopped at yes. And then it goes through all of the, so it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4. So it gives 4 reasons why climate change is responsible for child brides. Now, the reason why I have to bring this up is because AI is increasingly becoming a part of our lives, whether you like it or not. Now, you might be a purist and say, no, I don't mess with AI. I don't trust AI. I watched The Terminator. I didn't like it. I watched The Matrix. I didn't like it. I don't believe that we should be going down the road of AI. Doesn't matter. The world is going down the road of AI with or without you, and it's not really without you. I mean, whether you are going to be coming along, kicking or screaming, doesn't matter. Now, you might not use it for your benefit, but those that control you will use it for their benefit. And this is the information that you're not going to get anywhere else. Now, right now I'm sharing stuff. You're probably nodding your head, going along. Yeah, everything that you're saying is true. Just wait, because I'm about to say something that is extremely controversial. And it's because I've been watching the media. I've been seeing some of my close Christian friends put up things and I'm like, I don't think you fully understand the situation when it comes to AI. You know, next month I'm going to be traveling to the largest Christian hackers conference in South America, and I'm looking forward to that. This year and every year, we always host a Back to Jerusalem hackers conference where we bring hackers from around the world and we look at ways of getting the gospel into closed countries using hacking methods. And we use many different ways while we're together to find avenues that hackers can help us get the good news into nations that are completely closed to the gospel. And through those hackers, I learn a lot. One of the things that I learned was to look at the control of media through AI and look at the control that media has. So, and when I'm talking about media, you might be thinking about CNN or BBC or DW, but I'm not. I'm talking about the mediums in which we use to communicate with one another today. And all of that really has to do with online activity. So those that control the portals into your access to the rest of the world control almost everything. And so those gatekeepers of information can be extremely beneficial or dangerous. In 2020, with the rise of COVID, with some political back and forth that we saw, especially in the United States, we saw a danger brewing. And the hackers kind of briefed me on it and gave me an update on what was taking place, because what we saw was the gatekeepers of information. We're talking about Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Amazon, Google, Facebook, YouTube, all social media, all online payment portals, even the registration for online domain names was controlling information. And if you did not abide by that information, you were cut out of the system. One of the examples that I often use is Parler. You know, when Facebook and YouTube and all of these big social media giants began to go against the president in January of 2020, the president of the United States, arguably the most powerful person in the world, regardless of whether you like him or not, regardless of if you agree with what happened in January of 2026 or not. The fact of the matter is these large IT corporations came together and they cut him out of the world conversation. While the Ayatollah of Iran had an active Twitter, the president of the United States did not. While Mao Zedong and Kim Jong-un had an active social media account, the president of the United States did not. That got us to open up our eyes, because there was a group called Parler that is an online social media company, and they skyrocketed with new members. People began to jump ship and go from Twitter, Facebook, and move over to Parler. And Parler was shut down overnight like that. Why? Because their domain name was threatened. All of their hosting that was done, I believe was at Amazon. I could be wrong on that. Don't fact check me on that. But whoever their host was cut them off from all of their information overnight. They lost all information. They became completely inactive. I know, because I registered with them. I jumped over to them. And that's what made us start dingdash.com, which we don't really use so much anymore because the world has changed since 2020. Many people saw what I saw. And we saw someone come in and they bought Twitter and they redid Twitter. But we can't really rely on others to give us our freedom. One of the things that we were challenged by was the idea that certain books could be taken offline. For instance, one of the things that we saw was libraries being shut down all around the world, but just because they didn't have enough money. And why should they? I mean, libraries in many ways is kind of an archaic idea. I still like books. I still like old books. I still love libraries, but not everybody is on board, and I get it. So what was happening was a lot of libraries were losing their funding. And when they were losing their funding, they had to shut down and they had to get rid of all these books. Now they had a dilemma. What do we do with all these old books? Because there were a lot of people that wouldn't take all of them. So Google came in, or at least a project with Google, and they just began to take photos of all the different pages and then take these entire books and put them online and create a Google library. And the idea was get every book that has ever been written by mankind and put it online on the Google library. That makes us feel better about getting rid of the tangible books, the library books. I was excited about that because I didn't see that far down the road. because 2020 opened my eyes that certain books that the entities that are in control, if they don't like, they can just simply hit a delete button. It was the modern version of a book burning. So if there are any books, ideas, concepts, web pages that the entities did not like, they could simply just get rid of that material. Vanish, poof, gone, never to be seen or heard of from again. This is why Back to Jerusalem began to set up our own servers. Though it's more expensive than just paying for server space through one of the big giants, we felt that it was important that we have our own servers on different continents so that we have backup in case any of our servers are attacked, in case any of our content is shut down, in case we step out of line with the entities that be, those that are in power. If they don't like what we are doing or saying or disagreeing about, they don't have the power to absolutely destroy and get rid of everything that we're saying if we have our own servers. So that's what we did. We went into the backwoods of different countries and we found areas where we could set up our own servers so that if anyone tried to attack or the mainframes kind of shut down, we would always have a place saving the materials that we need to save. And when I see AI like this, blaming climate change for child brides instead of the real reason, I know more now than ever that it's important that we build our own servers. Now, this is where things get controversial. Because what we have seen in the last couple of years is an awakening where many people have started to realize that those that hold the power of information hold the power of the future. Those that have the data centers, those that have the servers, and those that control AI. So what we have seen is a push, especially in America, that they need to have their own AI centers. A lot of those centers have been in China for a while, and that was realized to be a bad idea. You don't want the Chinese to be in charge of your data. So data centers are being built like crazy right now in the United States. And that has created a problem because data centers use a lot of energy. So the government kind of looked at this and they thought, okay, we can't provide enough energy for these data centers, so how do we fix this problem? So someone came up with the ingenious idea of letting the data centers build their own power generators. And they can even sell back into the grid. This is a great way to have independence. Now, the U.S. could fall into different political hands over the years and they could go completely anti-Christian. So I'm not saying that that's a good idea for Christians to put their faith into a U.S.-based data center. But what I am saying is this. There has been a push because of that control of data to bring it into the U.S. control. And this big push is now receiving a lot of propaganda from China. And China is telling the American people, you don't want data centers in your backyard. It's bad. They've been spending a lot of money. How much? We don't know exactly. But we do know that China-funded money has been going to the U.S. to create negative propaganda against data centers being built in the United States. Why? Because if data centers are built in the United States, that takes power away from China's control. China wants those data centers to be built inside of China. In fact, China's not even telling people how many data centers they're building this year. There was 700, I think, built just last year. Right now, we do know. They don't want people to know because it is a secret. It is a state secret. Because they are going gangbusters because they know whoever controls AI in the future controls the world. And so there's a race right now for data centers. China is creating what's called a data center network grid, where it's not just data centers, but data centers that are able to feed off of data centers all around China. So every major area with a data center will be able to feed off of and benefit and use kind of like a central brain. And all of the network grid is like these nervous systems throughout all of China to bring it all into one. And right now, the propaganda to get Americans to not build data centers in America is working effectively. I think it's like the last poll I looked at was 72% of Americans see new data centers negatively. And right now, my social media feed is full of my friends that are against data centers being built in America. Guys, if they're not being built in America, where will they be built? China wants that control. And guess what? You will never hear from the Chinese about their complaint on data centers. Why? Because the people don't get a say. The reason I'm saying this is not to say you need to let them be built in America, or you need to make them built in China or Timbuktu. For us as missionaries, we have one goal, and that is to get the gospel of Jesus Christ into the most remote areas of the world. And we do that by working together with our hackers. And our hackers have been able to provide us with a way of putting up our own data centers, building our own data centers. Now, I can't tell you where, how, or I can tell you why, but I can't tell you where or how we're doing our data centers right now. But I can tell you from our own personal experience, the world is trying to control data centers. The world is trying to control AI. Now, a lot of people will say, well, AI is just these large language modules. They actually don't give you information. What they get, that information that I got from Google AI, that is just a deciphering of what is out there on the internet. I would say that's not completely true. These are programmed biased applications. These large language modules or models are used with to filter certain information and not filter certain information. There's certain information that is considered to be dangerous. I just saw an Iranian online the other day. I wish I could find his Instagram page and share it with you. You can do a search for this online and find it yourself. It's this Iranian Christian's amazing. He basically asks about details of the Bible, violence in the Old Testament, and AI reads the scripture and gives the factual information, as you would expect for AI to do. But when he asks about the violent verses in the Quran, he gets a completely different response. Instead of giving him the information, AI filters it, explains it, and doesn't read the entire surah. I mean, it is blatant. He films it, he questions it, he records it, and the bias drips off of his phone as he sits and he listens to AI that has been programmed with a bias to give you the information that it wants you to have. This is why we feel at Back to Jerusalem that it is absolutely imperative that Christians have their own servers, their own data centers. And that's why at Back to Jerusalem, we've been able to invest in those things. And we've been asking people to partner together with us for several years now, and many of you have been giving through our Back to Jerusalem gatekeepers. Back to Jerusalem gatekeepers have been the absolute backbone of our data center operations. Without our data centers, we would have nowhere safe to save our Bibles that are in different languages, including very little known languages that exist today in Bhutan that have no other access to the gospel outside of the translations that we have provided at Back to Jerusalem. And to keep those translations safe, we have put them on our own servers. We have applications that we can't put on any open Play Store. We can't put on Google Play Store. We can't put on the Apple Store. We cannot make these applications available because they're secret applications that missionaries put on their phones to share the gospel with people in dangerous areas like Iran and Afghanistan. Those are on Back to Jerusalem servers at the Back to Jerusalem data centers. So when you are seeing the big push against data servers being in America, ask yourself one question. Where do people want the data servers to be built? The answer is not here, not in America. Well, if you don't make that decision, it will be made for you. And there is a country that has an answer. Build them in China. We'll take care of all of your information for you. That Google response that I just got is okay because there's other options that I can use. I can use other AI to answer questions. I can use Grok. I can use ChatGPT. I can use many different AI modules in order to use on a regular basis and ask questions like that. And kind of use it as an advanced Google search. I know that there's a lot of people that kind of shiver because they feel like there's so much more to AI than just using it as a Google search. But that was the easy way for me to highlight for our audience the bias that is programmed inside. Because, I mean, if I take that search that I just did, I'm going to do it right now. Is climate change responsible for child brides? I use the Google AI for that. If I put in Grok, sometimes I don't have a subscription to Grok. So sometimes Grok is too busy to take my questions. We'll see if it's too busy now. Yeah. It says, to continue the conversation, you just sign up for free. But if I put it into Grok, I can do it on my laptop, can't do it on my phone. I'll get a completely different answer. Why? Because the large language models are not the same between the two, or the information might be the same, but they're filtered differently. And that's just between two. Competition is good. So you may not like what one, AI module gives you, but you can always use another one. That's why at Back to Jerusalem, we like to keep our stuff outside. We'll still use other facilities to help us facilitate what we're doing. But we argue that you should not be in favor of sending your data centers to China. I live in China. It's not a place that you want controlling your information. Now you'll probably see on your social media feed a lot more of your friends that are anti-data centers. In fact, you have a 72% chance of having negative information on data centers. Now, I'm going to probably get a lot of corrections, a lot of hate mail, a lot of, well, you didn't say this, or you didn't mention this, or you should know this, or you're an ignoramus because of this. I'll probably get a lot of that emails, a lot of those messages. I might even have this video kicked off of YouTube. But this is information that Christians need to be aware of. Back to Jerusalem missionaries are on the front lines, and we see these things a little bit quicker than the rest of the world. And we share information that you won't hear anywhere else. We want to thank you so much for your prayers, your support, and thank you for downloading this Back to Jerusalem podcast. Again, I'm Eugene Bach, your host for this time, coming to you live on delay from somewhere within the borders of Sweden. God bless.